We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
So what is at stake? Thousands, millions are turning out to vote, and we find ourselves again at a presidential election that's a natural ebb and flow for the American people. My team and I have been traveling on the ground in various cities. We've been on the ground here in Philadelphia, meeting with people in the community, filming on the streets, outside City Hall, looking at get out the vote efforts and all that's been taking place. Because at the end of the day, what it comes down to is the ballot represents the American voice.
I feel like our vote is being minimized and being stolen from the people themselves.
Yet this year is distinctly different because the American voice is actually at stake.
It's like if you have a chess game, you know the game of chess? Okay, it has all the little pawns, right? And in the back has the knights and the rooks and the queens, and you got me? Well, to me, that's Washington and that's Harrisburg, the back line. The front line are the pawns, and that's the opiates crisis, the COVID-19, the school issues, Social Security. That's all those, and those are the sacrifice pieces that they play games with while they protect themselves in their pocket.
And right behind me is one of the satellite polling places here in Philadelphia. We're gonna take a walk around, talk to some people about the satellite polling places, the poll watcher controversy, and the CTCL funds that are coming into the city to fund it all.
There are 4 key swing states that have been targeted primarily by the CTCL. You can look at our video on the CTCL and others. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. And in these 4 swing states, we've seen numerous efforts to distort the value of the vote.
Sure, we filed a complaint in U.S. District Court in Pennsylvania, trying to get an injunction to stop this private-public partnership to fund the operations, the actual operations of elections. Look, if somebody has a lot of money and they want to use it to say, hey, vote for Joe or vote for Bill or whoever you want to vote for, that's fine. There's no problem with that, and money pours into that all the time. But when you start funding the actual conduction of the election, by funding mobile vote collection vans and, putting people on the street to help the election office, I kind of think that's out of bounds.
And talk about the Democratic Party as a whole, where fraud is committed, not even when there's a Republican candidate on the ballot. And it's just a way of just manipulating the whole system here. And guess what? The people that benefit from that are not the voters. It's not the campaign to get the vote out. It's the nonprofits that make, the people that are running these nonprofits that are making the money.
Did you know that MArk Zukerbuerge has given millions of dollars through a nonprofit organization, came in through
Facebook guy, right?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
Came in through government grants and is specifically working to turn out the vote in specific party areas.
Which is giving preference to select counties to the exclusion of all the other counties. So that is undercutting the election process.
We should not be using any government funds to fund any nonprofit to push any candidate, whether you're Republican or Democrat.
So he donated over $350 million to a group called Center for Tech and Civic Life.
Okay.
And what they've been doing is they've been targeting swing states and then targeting specific cities within those swing states to get out the vote, but in ways that are contrary to state election law.
Well, voter fraud is a problem. I mean, when you're dealing with voter fraud, and this is what I'm trying to explain to people, even if it comes out to be an advantage for the party you're with, voter fraud is cheating everybody, because you can't in your mind say you really won if you won by cheating.
So
He's trying to be like more like change it from the Democrat to something else. If it's already you said 80% Democrat or whatever these areas, he's trying to change it to something else?
So he's trying to get out the vote in Democrat areas through government grant monies. Does that make sense?
No, because he already got money. He
Yeah.
rich already. They get the rich getting rich. Why you gonna use the government money? You already got money.
So would it specify if it's Democrat or Republican vote, so they could be like, all right, if I'm with the Democratic Party and I get a Republican vote, oh, I can say just, oh, this ain't right, and just throw it out like that.
Because if you're tabulating the votes,
Yeah.
and you're checking the votes,
Yeah.
you can see what's coming through, and it's like, oh man, like,
Oh, that's crazy.
So it's his money, but he's giving it to the government and he's saying you have to use it this way or you can't have it.
Oh no, see, no, that ain't cool. Zuckerberg, I'm canceling my Facebook account. I'm canceling it. Say no, that seems like he's trying to me, it seems like it's control. He's trying to control it. He's trying to buy the votes.
In Philadelphia alone, what we witnessed, first the breakdown of the election law due to COVID. So for example, they were allowing people to register and vote on the same day through mail-in ballots. In doing so, what that does is it removes the signature verification as part of the process for guaranteeing a person's identity.
And if you came before the October 19th, you were able to register to vote, cast your vote on the same day, same place. It's the one-stop shop, as they like to call it.
I think it's really scary to watch what is happening just in general with the mail-in ballots. And there's a lot of confusion in our 5th district, which is Delaware County. There's even more confusion. We're not getting education. I have people calling me every day asking what they need to do with if they want to vote in person and not by mail. People who are telling me they're receiving mail-in ballots and they did not request them. It's just a lot of craziness that's going on.
We also saw get out the vote efforts from people offering food, busing, entertainment to get people to turn out the vote.
Tell us a little bit about the trucks and then the Get Out the Vote initiative with that.
Okay, so the trucks are one of the main ways for us to promote what we're doing here. It's one of the easiest ways for people to see right in front of their face that they can come out to vote early. And if you were out earlier throughout the month, it was an initiative to get people to come out and register as well.
Propaganda in the polling places. We heard stories of translators mistranslating or misguiding Latina and Latino individuals inside the polling places and redirecting their votes.
And they're just out here informing people on how to get educated on voting and what they can do to vote today.
We've heard of emergency ballots that are being offered in the emergency room. We've heard of so many different efforts to disrupt and distract and distort the vote in Philadelphia.
We've been here since October 3rd. It's already the 23rd, so we've been here 20 days strong, every day, all day, informing the people, letting them know that they can come here and vote early, and that's basically one of their biggest initiatives. They have over 8 teams in the city working the same type of posts and doing the same kind of jobs, and we're definitely making an impact.
Not to mention Detroit, Milwaukee, and Minneapolis.
You're trying to control things, like the other guy. What's the other guy's name? He's trying to buy it. He's trying to buy Soros. He's trying to buy. It seems like he's trying to buy things and control it in place. I'm like, that ain't cool. Anytime you're trying to buy something, that's not cool. Let the people choose.
This systemic and multifaceted effort requires some form of accountability. While the election laws have been weakened, the last resort or remedy in order to protect the vote would be a poll watcher with you.
So are they watching you from the outside then?
They're more so just watching like how the votes are processed.
I don't need nobody to do that. That's what they got. So I don't really know how voting goes. So when you go cast a vote, right?
Yeah.
Now, do somebody have to check behind you after you cast that vote, or is it just cast it and you just...
So you just cast it. What a poll watcher does is a poll watcher helps protect the integrity of the vote in the counting room. Liberal news and liberal elected officials have portrayed poll watchers as vote suppressors, when the poll watchers actually have no interaction with the voter themselves.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, so in that case, yeah, you would probably need a poll watcher for that, though.
They help verify that the votes that are counted are valid votes, and the votes that are not counted have a reason to not be counted according to election law.
And Philadelphia's district attorney has harsh words for the tactics he says the Trump team is already trying. The DA writes, "Keep your Proud Boys, goon squads, and uncertified poll watchers out of our city, Mr. President. Break the law here, and I've got something for you."
The District Attorney of Philadelphia has threatened jail time for uncertified poll watchers, yet they are refusing to certify many qualified individuals who lean towards the Republican ticket.
Joining us now is that Philadelphia District Attorney, Larry Krasner. Mr. Krasner, great to have you. What does that mean, I've got something for you?
That means I got a jail cell and I got criminal charges, and you can stand in front of a Philadelphia jury, which, by the way, is a diverse jury, and you can explain why you thought it was okay to come to Philly and steal our votes.
We've spoken with a number of individuals in Philadelphia who have sought to get deputized in order to be part of verifying the vote. However, they were refused deputization, and the city council members and city officials have actually been posting in specific Facebook groups that are associated with riots and asking them to come and work in these polling places in order to verify the vote. If you look at it and you stand back and you look at this from a big picture perspective, you see the weakening of election laws, you see the distortion of the election polling places, you see the distortion of election funds where the election judges are actually being paid through a third-party source that's being funneled through the government. And then you see the removal of the verification on election day that's supposed to guarantee that this entire process actually worked in the first place.
We were supposed to be allowed by law to observe the counting of the ballots. Now, observe means, to any intelligent person, being able to look at it. The way it's interpreted by the Democrat crooked machine of Philadelphia is that the observers can be 20 or 30 feet away, never able to see the ballot itself, never able to see if it was properly postmarked, properly addressed, properly signed on the outside. All the things that often lead to disqualification of ballots or make it very easy to dump 50,000 totally fraudulent ballots because they're not observed. This went on for 20 hours. While all of you thought there was some kind of legitimate count going on here in Philadelphia, it was totally illegitimate.
If we remove the poll watchers, we remove the integrity of the American voice. And it's happening in Philadelphia, it's happening in Detroit by consolidating different districts into one polling area for the count. And they're saying, oh, only one poll watcher is allowed, when actually, according to Michigan law, there's a poll watcher allowed for every single district that's represented in that room. They're crying COVID rather than election integrity, and they're squeezing all these people into a small space, which is completely illogical in the context of COVID to begin with. That's what's happening in Michigan. In Minnesota, we're seeing the same fairs, the get out the vote efforts that we saw in Michigan. We're seeing an actual fair just about 100 feet away from a polling place where there are rides and food trucks and prizes and get out the vote efforts. And in Wisconsin, what we have is we have a downtown district that has these drop boxes from Zuckerberg CTCL funds that have come in. People are dropping in the drop boxes, and if they're from out of district, the election office there is deciding which ballots to provide to the proper jurisdiction and which to put by the wayside. We have no verification of which ballots are going where, but if you follow the funds and you follow the money and you follow the progressive effort in order to distort the vote, it's very clear what is happening in each of these jurisdictions. Last night I had the privilege of speaking with a gentleman for about an hour who has specifically been targeted by the district attorney in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. He was targeted because he was installing security cameras based on a government contract in order to validate the integrity of these election drop boxes in order to secure that people were not dropping off more than one ballot. The district attorney investigated him, spoke to his parents, targeted him, and ultimately brought him in for questioning, even though he had a valid contract certifying that he was requested to install these cameras. During that conversation, he asked me, what do we do? How do we respond to this? Because this was not the first effort in which he had been targeted by civil government. And this was not the first instance that he specifically knew of, because I had spoken with many others as well, as had he, who had been targeted, who had been defamed, who had been ostracized by their communities based on these elected officials' efforts in order to sway the election. My response to him was that it takes those of us who are uniquely positioned to both see and act with courage. We look at the Karl Menkes in Michigan who decided to open their doors despite gubernatorial orders that were later overturned. We look at those who are standing up against government overreach, who are challenging the new election laws that have been distorted because of COVID. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the question is, will the American voice be protected? But if that is the question, we must first ask, will we as Americans be willing to speak? There is a call on each and every one of us where we have responsibility. In order for America to be free, we must exercise those freedoms, and we must hold government officials accountable despite the repercussions, because only then will we actually be able to remove tyranny, cronyism, and corruption from those government offices. If we will not stand today, we will not likely be able to stand tomorrow. So my request, my ask is that you would follow us in this effort, follow us on Facebook, go to our website, and ultimately join us in sharing your voice and sharing the voice of the American people as we work to keep America, America, as we work to keep America the land of the free and the home of the brave, and a nation under God that values the inherent right of the individual.